Lumi is the newest mythic brawler coming to Brawl Stars, and she is the second member of the Mad Evil Manor trio, along with Draco. Okay, so she really loves metal music, and she even plays the drums in Draco's band. I guess it's hers and Draco's band. We don't know who the third member is yet. Though, ever since Lumi got a job at Star Park, she's replaced her drumsticks with morning stars. Additionally, she wields the powers of fire and ice, which match up with her hot and cold personality.
I wish you all the stamina. Joy and sorrow walk hand in hand. Just get out of my way.
Stick around for the end, where we will show all of her voice lines and pins. She's pretty cool. I could be wrong, but I think that she's Finnish. At least it sounded like Finnish to me. The only Finnish I've heard is from all the times I've been in Finland, which is a fair number of times because that's where Supercell headquarters is. Anyways, Lumi's main attack is Good Morning Star. She throws one of her Morning Stars forward and then uses a separate ammo to throw her second Morning Star. Now, these two weapons will stop at the end of her range and sit on the map until she uses another ammo to retract them both back to her. Lumi's attack is very similar to Carl's main attack because her ammo bar just indicates whether or not she's holding on to her Morning Stars. And also, obviously, her Morning Stars can be thrown in completely different directions, and they cannot be retracted until both of them have been thrown. Just like Carl's pickaxe, they'll stop at walls if they hit one on the way out, but they will go through walls on the way back to Lumi. They each deal their own individual damage, and they almost deal double the damage on the way back to Lumi compared to being fired away from her. Lumi's super is Blastbeat. She slams the ground 3 times, with each slam creating explosions that progressively cover more area and deal more damage. Now, if an enemy is hit by the last blast, they will be rooted for 1 second, okay? Now, I got this wrong in Brawl Talk. Being rooted is slightly different than being stunned because they can also attack back. They just can't move. Now, these blasts can hit any number of enemies, and it can also go through walls, which I've also discovered that the blast will land in relation to where Lumi is when they're created, not where the reticle shows when the super is being fired. You'll see what I'm about to talk about clearly when I'm talking about the swarm test. Lumi's first gadget is Infernal Flames. When this gadget is activated, the small area surrounding each of her Morning Stars will light on fire and deal damage to enemies that are touching it. Now, it does not light enemies on fire. It just deals damage while they're standing on it, very similar to the fire from like Penny's cannonballs or Brock's main attack, unlike Carl's gadget, which actually lights enemies on fire. Now, the gadget can be activated even if Lumi is holding one of her Morning Stars, or if she's even holding both of her Morning Stars. If that happens, the fire will appear around herself, which is cool. So you don't want to get too close to her. Infernal Flames has a 14-second cooldown timer. Lumi's second gadget is Grim and Frostbitten. This gadget is basically, I'm sorry, I couldn't hold myself. The gadget is basically the same as her first, except instead of an area of fire, each Morning Star creates an area of ice. These function exactly the same as Lu's super. It doesn't let enemies quickly change direction. They kind of slide around on it. It also deals 100 damage per second, and the durations of both of these gadgets actually last for 4 seconds. But Grim and Frostbitten, this gadget, has an 18-second cooldown timer, which is 4 seconds longer. Lumi's first star power is 42% burnt. This star power sets the ground on fire where the blasts are from Lumi's super, and each spot will burn for 4 seconds. Just like her first gadget, it doesn't light brawlers on fire, it just deals damage to them while they are standing on it. Interestingly enough, the amount of damage that they take depends on which area the enemy is standing in. The bigger the area, the more damage they'll take per second, and obviously being rooted and being unable to move away from the fire is very not good for enemies. Lumi's second star power is Halftime. Now, this star power is going to slow all enemies down for 2 seconds if they are hit by Lumi's star powers on the way back to her. If an enemy is hit by both, the slow doesn't stack. They will just be slowed for 2 seconds from the most recent hit. So if they get hit by one and then the second Morning Star 1 second later, then it just resets and they have a total slow of 3 seconds instead of two seconds. Wow, sorry guys, this is getting way longer than I wanted it to be. Okay, now that we've taken a closer look at Lumi, it is time to put her through the Brawl Stars Olympics. And as always, we're gonna start with her worst test and make our way up to her best test. Then we'll talk about which game mode she's gonna be strong in. First up is the 3-attack kill test. Technically, 3 attacks from Lumi consists of her throwing both Morning Stars and then 1 more to reel them back in. So each Morning Star deals 1,000 damage on the way out and 1,800 damage on the way back. Total, that's 5,600 damage. That's enough to kill 20 brawlers in the game. Wow, that's so good. Oh, no, never mind. It's not. It only puts her in 84th place. But if you consider how quickly she can do that, it's decent. Okay, next we have the survival test. Now, Lumi has 6,000 total health and no abilities that provide her a shield or a health or recovery or anything like that. She survives for 15.2 seconds. That is very similar to like Kit and Ruffs and Miko. It puts her in 72nd place, so not very survivable compared to a lot of the brawlers. Next is the race test. She doesn't have any abilities to help her in the race test, which means that her mobility is not great. She has a normal movement speed like most of the brawlers in the game and completes the race test in 12.3 seconds and ties her with 30 other brawlers for 59th place. In other words, her movement is just very similar to like Nita. Next is the auto aim test. Now Lumi's able to successfully land her first Morning Star from 4 tiles away, but the second Morning Star doesn't even get close. She only deals 1,000 damage in total since she can't retract it in time to deal the other 1,800 damage, but it is enough to put her in 59th place. Not the best auto aim. For the super range test, the third blast from Lumi's super can reach 8 2/3 tiles away. So she actually ties with Bee, Piper, and Chester for 55th place. Think of Bee's super and how far it can reach without her hypercharge. With her hypercharge is busted, obviously. Next is the supercharge test. Lumi has to land 12 hits with her main attack to charge her super. But if those hits are on the way back to her, they almost count as 2. If the attacks all hit, it takes 9 hits, which she lands in 2.3 seconds. So she ties with BB and Rosa for 47th place. That's a good recharging super. So for those tests, she's worse than half the brawlers, but for these next tests, she is better than half the brawlers in the game. Starting off with the attack range test. Now, Lumi's main attack is the same length as her super. It can reach 8 2/3 tiles, so she ties with 7 other brawlers for 39th place. This is the same range as Crow and Barley and Pearl and Amber and Gray and Lola and Otis. So that gives you a really good reference for how long her attack range is. Next is the splash test. Now, Lumi begins by dealing damage to almost all of the boxes with her super, and then she uses her main attack to deal damage to 2 rows of boxes at a time. It only takes her 1 full round of firing the Morning Stars and retracting them to take out each row. And that means she's able to complete the test in 8.6 seconds, puts her in 37th place, and this suggests that she's going to be pretty good at dealing damage to an area. So that's good for like hot zone, right? Next is the 1 second DPS test. Lumi starts with her Morning Stars already behind the boss, and then she uses her super in just the right spot so that the boss is hit by the second and third blast just about at the same time that the Morning Stars hit, okay? Now she gets a little bit of bonus damage from her first gadget and her first star power, and in total, she deals 9,100 damage in 1 second. That's, in the right circumstances, that's crazy. That gets her 35th place. That's a lot of damage in 1 second. Next, we have the assassin test. The assassin test allows for 3 seconds of damage. Now, she uses the same strategy here as she did in the 1 second DPS test, but then moves closer to the boss to fire and retract the Morning Stars as fast as she can. In only 3 seconds, she deals 14,460 damage. That's enough to put her in 33rd place. It's also enough for her to kill every brawler in the game. Next is the swarm test. Once again, Lumi starts with the Morning Stars retracted since they can kill the bots in only 1 hit if they are retracting. She also uses her super to almost take out 2 full rows of bots and then uses another super to take out the other 2 rows of bots. Once she's at the top of the swarm, she just retracts the Morning Stars to take out the rest of the bots, which is kind of cool. Now she defeats the swarm in 3.6 seconds. That's very similar to Amber and Sam. That ties her with Amber and Sam for 28th place. And again, you can see she's good at controlling a good area. And if you need more proof, here's the next test, the area test. Now her attacks take out 18 skulls with just 1 Morning Star. So I thought it made sense just to double that score, right? Since she can have 2 of them out at once. Her super can break 23 skulls, and the flames from her first gadget can break 14 more skulls per Morning Star. She's able to break 87 skulls in total. That puts her in 27th place. Next is the boss test. And we tried doing the boss test in different ways, and to my surprise, I found that Lumi doesn't even have to use her super in this test. It's only 0.1 seconds slower than if she does use her super. So it's basically the same, using her super versus only using her Morning Stars. Obviously, the reason to use the super in actual matches is to root enemies in the spot, but that's not important against a static, like a non-moving moving boss, right? Lumi can't deal as much damage by hitting the boss with the last blast of her super because it takes too much time for the Morning Stars to travel that distance and then to come back to her, as you can see. Now, Lumi defeats the boss in 21.4 seconds. That ties her with Bo for 15th place. Next is the super damage test. Now, Lumi's super deals 2,000 damage with the first blast, then that goes up by 400 for the second blast, and another 400 up to 2,800 damage for the last blast. I only added the star power damage from the last blast because an enemy can only take fire damage from one blast at a time, and that last blast deals the most at 560 damage per second. She deals a total of 8,880 damage with just her super and her star power. That is enough to put her in 12th place. That's very good. Like, think about how many brawlers have less than 8,880 health. That's so many. So getting rooted with her super is just so scary. Next is the box test. Lumi uses her gadget to start to help break open the first box, but with how fast she's able to keep retracting her weapons, it doesn't take long to open it. The number of boxes in a group also doesn't matter since she can hit all of them with the same number of shots. She completes the box test in 23.8 seconds. She gets 8th place. That means she's going to be very good at ramping up in solo showdown. Next is the reload test. Oh man, she's got a good reload speed. Now, as we've seen with Lumi, reloading is really different for her than most brawlers, but I thought that it made the most sense to see how fast she could fire 10 shots, and I didn't actually count retracting them as a shot since that's actually what reloads her ammo. So the goal for this test for her is to unload her Morning Stars 10 total times and retract them 5 times. Still, she's able to do so in 6.2 seconds, which puts her in 4th place overall. So like, that's good. She's gonna have her ammo up pretty much as frequently as she wants, right? And that's actually her best test. 4th best overall reload speed in the game. Okay, so how strong is she actually going to be in each of these game modes, right? Starting off with gem grab. Lumi is not a great gem carrier, to me at least, not because she doesn't have like a lot of health, and if a tank or assassin is able to get close to her, there's not really much that she can do to get away from them. That being said though, she has some really good area control, and between her super being able to root enemies and her gadgets creating ice puddles or flame, she might even be a decent brawler for stealing gems from the enemies. I'm gonna give her B tier for gem grab, though she's pretty strong. She might be A tier. For Brawler, we're gonna go with A tier. I could see her being like this being one of her better game modes because she doesn't really need ammo to shoot the ball, and she'll be good on maps with lots of walls, which are most Brawl Ball maps. She doesn't really have good enough health to be a good goal scorer, but she might be able to root enemies with her super so that then her teammates can easily score the ball. It might be a little bit generous, but A tier for Brawl Ball I think makes sense. For Heist, you know what? We're gonna go with the A tier. Based on what we saw with the boss test, Lumi seems like she can deal like some really good damage over a long period of time, even without her super. So she might be another brawler that you just cannot leave alone on the safe. Still, she's not like going to be the best brawler at Heist because she doesn't have the range to deal with a lot of like some annoying competitive long range options, and her super won't be dealing that much damage to the safe. So that's why I feel like we can't give her S tier, but I don't know. She's really strong. She might be S tier, but we'll go with A tier. For Bounty, we're gonna go with the C tier though. Like I mentioned with Lumi being outranged by other long range brawlers, she's gonna really struggle. She really is. That being said, if she's able to root an enemy on the spot, like that's essentially an instant kill for a lot of them. Think of kind of like Frank, but without the HP, right? Being stunned will mean the death for a lot of brawlers, especially if she has that fiery star power. But they'll still be able to fire at you. Like, it's not going to be safe. They'll be rooted. They can still attack you though. And some brawlers like Piper and B, like if they're gonna die, they might as well just be firing off their shots as quickly as possible. We'll go with C tier. She might be B tier though. For Hot Zone, 100% S tier. Hot Zone could very well be her best game mode. Honestly, one of the best things about Lumi is her second gadget being able to create 2 ice puddles at the very start of the game without a super. Think about why Lu is so strong in Hot Zone. It's because of that super, but she doesn't have to have a super. And with gadget cooldowns being a thing, she's gonna be able to activate that every 18 seconds. That's gonna be so annoying to deal with for the enemy team. Even if they only last for a few seconds, that's all that her team's gonna need to get really good map control at the very beginning of the match in Hot Zone, and then it's just going to be easy to maintain that for the rest of the match. Additionally, her main attack and her super just cover tons of area, so if there are any brawlers in the zone, they're going to be constantly be taking damage from Lumi. She could even throw out her Morning Stars, and then they have to avoid the path of the returning Morning Stars because that's when it deals the most damage anyway. So S tier for Hot Zone makes a lot of sense. For Knockout though, we're gonna go with a B tier. She's another brawler that I think would be best used for waiting until the smoke pushes enemies closer together. That is a really good strategy for her as long as she's not being bothered by like throwers like Tick or Grom, right? Now when everyone starts running out of room, her super is gonna be almost impossible to miss, and she can deal a lot of damage very quickly at mid-range. She's probably not gonna be like the most consistent knockout brawler, but there are far worse brawlers that, you know, for knockout, so we'll go with a B tier. For solo showdown, I'm we're gonna go with a B tier. The only thing keeping me from putting her in the C tier for solo showdown is how fast she can actually break open boxes and rack up those power cubes. That's really strong, and there's a chance that I might be wrong. She might end up being a A tier brawler for solo showdown. But she will usually have more power cubes than most other brawlers because of this. But once again, her lack of mobility makes her an easy target for sneaky plays, which is something you always have to be prepared for in this game mode. So we're going to go with the B tier for solo showdown. But for duo and trio showdown, we're going to go with the A tier. Lumi's area control is going to be a lot more valuable to her with teammates by her side. But I think even more importantly, all of her attacks are AoE. So more enemies means more overall damage being dealt from her. Now, not having abilities to escape assassins is also less important when you have teammates, since you can just play her with brawlers that do counter assassins. So I think the A tier for duo and trio showdown makes a lot of sense. Honestly though, she might be completely broken. It's really hard to tell before a brawler's release how strong they're going to be. So I'm really curious to know what you guys think of her. Either way, I think she's so fun to play. I'm really excited to unlock her. But now we've got all of her awesome voice lines. So yeah, you guys enjoy that. We'll see you guys in the next video.
I'm throwing my spoon in the corner. Burned my butt and sat on the blisters. Ei auta itkumarkkinoilla. Ei hätä ole tämän näköinen. I'm feeling a little offbeat. Metal breakdown. Crashing like a cymbal. Guess I missed a beat. I won't be getting up from this. The drums of doom are calling. Ojasta allikkoon! Aikansa kutakin, sanoi pässi kun päätä leikattiin. Even the smallest cow has horn. Pain doesn't kill, but it makes you weak. Pain makes you grow and suffering refines you. Life is not just dancing on roses. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Metal drummers don't tap out. Paradiddle of pain. I haven't got time for this. And so the forest answers as you scream. You miss a beat, you pay the price. Guess you can't handle my tempo. I wish you all the stamina. You just got run-rolled. Joy and sorrow walk hand in hand. I rocked, you just rolled. There's still space behind the sauna. I double-kicked you to oblivion. The deceased do not complain. Drum roll, please. Badum-tsh. I won! Yay! Can I go home now? This was a victory like wearing victory pants. Didn't miss a beat. I ran to the finish like a moose in a swamp. Fight the cotton! Let's lift the cat on the table. Serving Blastbeats and broken teeth. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's kick this up a notch. This is deeply uncomfortable. Are we done yet? Mosh pit rules! Let's kick some pylly. Going in at 200 beats per minute. Nyt mennään 200 BPM. Let's jump into cold water. Tulta munille. Just get out of my way. I get my kicks from my sticks. Antaa tulla lunta tupaan ja jäitä porstuaan. Drums of doom go boom, boom, boom. Blastbeat! Drums of destruction! Time for some Brawler breaking beats! Breaking the sound barrier! Heittää löylyä kuin saunamajuri! Soittaa kuin hullu myrskyn keskellä!